Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Talk Show. This podcast is dedicated to a growth mindset. You see, I believe that you know something that I don't know, and I also believe that I know something that you don't know. And the only way for each of us to rise in our knowings is for us to sit in a room and share all the things. For those of you that are new to this podcast and love inspirational content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in.
We come to you every day with the best speakers, relationship coaches, spiritual mentors, trailblazers, business owners, authors, young hustlers, podcasters, entrepreneurs, fitness trainers, therapists, financial advisors, and more. We ask our guests one question. What do you know that I don't know? Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
And thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Talk Show. We've had over 500 women grace our stage, and we are adding another one to the list today. If you're watching us live, welcome. And if you're watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we can send you some love. Either way, if you are watching this video wherever you are, we would appreciate it if you were to share it so we can get more eyes and more ears on the awesome content we are about to share today. Her Talk Show. It's here to inspire you. It's here to have you thinking outside the box in no time. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named CarrieVee. I just love that name so much. CarrieVee is an international speaker, author, and coach. Helps those who have forgotten how to dream to overcome their excuses and live the lives they were created to live. She is the founder of Radical Empowerment Method, a program designed to help people move from a life of feeling invisible to a life of empowered action and success. CarrieVee is an award-winning Toastmasters speaker, yes, and has been featured in multiple media outlets and has been on stages to thousands of men and women. Welcome, CarrieVee. How are you?
Yes, Sabrina. I'm giving you one of these back right at you. I'm fantastic.
Thank you. You know what? I so appreciate you being here. I love women who understand the importance of podcasting, sharing value, giving back to the audience and our community in these little ways. You know, there are people out there that are just searching to do things better.
Yes.
Than the way that they are. And, you know, when women like you take some time out of their day to sit down and just share some of the goodness, it really helps us all move along that much quicker in our journey.
Yes. Yes. I love what you do. I can't thank you enough for what you do. Just watching the intro, I could feel my heart rate start to go up like this is so fabulous. Thank you.
100%. Well, listen, you know, I know that life is about choices. Every choice that we make matters. And if we want to live empowered lives, then we have to choose wisely, step through fear, and rise up empowered and strong. What are your thoughts on that as far as, you know, living an empowered life? What does that mean to you?
Living an empowered life is all about choice. And it was interesting. As I was sharing before we came on camera, I just completed a one-day retreat with our local YWCA, and we started to talk about what empowerment means, because one of the goals of the YWCA nationwide is to empower women. That is part of what they do. And one young woman said, but that means that we have to be able to do everything all by ourselves. And I said, no. It doesn't. It actually means asking and receiving help. It actually means reaching out to others as you know something that I don't know, and I don't know something that you don't know. It's being willing to ask for that help. And I shared a story about, this very chair I'm sitting in. When I ordered it, I was determined that I was going to take the empowered stance and put this chair together all by myself. And it comes in pieces in a box, right? it came from Amazon. I hossed it down to my office down here in my basement, and I laid out all the pieces. I had already worked out, so I'm in sweats, I'm already sweaty in my workout clothes. And I started to tackle this chair. And the first thing you had to do was take the base and put the wheels into the base and snap them in. And I could not for the life of me get those wheels snapped into the base. So my bright idea was, well, I'm going to put the rest of the chair together. I know you're going to You're going to look at me like I have 5 heads when I say this. I thought I'm going to put this whole thing together, get this actual chair part on the little rod, put that in the base, and then smack my body down on it and let it all click into place. That was my bright idea. However, thankfully for probably everyone that knows me, I couldn't lift the seat up onto the metal rod. I was still recovering from breaking my shoulder. I didn't have my strength back. I was still really on my cancer recovery part. And I didn't have the stamina or the strength to lift the actual chair portion onto the metal rod, let alone get the metal rod onto the base. And I was sitting on my basement floor, dirt and sweat streaming down my face. And then the tears came. And I'm sitting surrounded by all of these pieces. And my husband, his nickname is Thor. And I called up, Thor, Thor. And he goes, what are you doing down there? And I didn't answer. So he came down and he sees me sitting in this mess. And he kind of like picks me up and he leads me to the couch and he sits me down and he says, let me help you. And he had the chair together in like 2 seconds flat. And I shared this story with these young women because I wanted them to understand it is okay to ask for help, but it's equally important to accept the help. And what my husband said to me that morning was, how much time of your life did you just lose because you refused to ask for help?
Yeah.
How much time? The people that count on you, the people that follow you, don't need you to throw all of your energy into something that you don't have the skill set for, because I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And I have the strength to do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an insult to me that this was not in my wheelhouse. He loves doing this kind of stuff. And I actually hate it. I really hate it. I like to sit in the chair and spin it, not put it together. And he's the exact opposite of me. And then he said to me, by trying to do this on your own, you not only gave your power, like you just kind of threw it out the door by not tapping into your own strengths, but you also stole a blessing from me because I truly love helping you.
Oh,
It was such a huge lesson of what empowerment really is. Empowerment is being willing to ask for help, to receive help, to offer help. It's so multifaceted, and choice is a foundation of this empowerment. I made a choice that day to prove myself. I have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove. None of us have to prove anything to anyone. We get to walk in our strengths, walk in our powers, and face fear and do the things that are passionate for us. That's true empowerment, in my opinion.
yes. I love what you said there. I wrote down, when you ask for help, you empower someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
I hadn't either until that morning. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because so many times we feel like when we're asking for help, we're being like a drag on someone.
Yes.
But we're actually letting somebody else like stand tall to help.
We're letting them step into their power.
Yes. Oh, Carrie, we can just end this right here. Period. Oh, that is great. I know that you talk a lot about choices within your community and your clients, and how every choice we make matters.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, this is my registered trademark for my business is life is short, choose wisely. And that whole thing, yes. And that came from my brother. Back in 2007, my oldest brother was diagnosed with a terminal cancer, and we were very close growing up. And in my growing up years, I could always envision me and my brothers. There were 2 of them. I was the youngest. I always envisioned the 3 of us as older adults, like grandparents, sitting on one of our front porches, sipping coffee, laughing about our childhood and sharing all the stories with our grandkids, because this is what my mom and dad did. We heard all the stories growing up, and then our kids got to hear the stories. And it was something that I saw in my head happening. And then my brother was diagnosed with this cancer, and I thought, no, that can't happen. That's not the way this happens. That's not the way life goes. And he fought hard, and we all as a family pulled together. And sometimes he was in the hospital for 30, 40 days straight. He fought so hard. And in 2010, he died. The cancer took over. And it was a time in my life where my mind just started searching for, what is this really all about? What is this really all for? And a week before Billy died, we were in a restaurant, we were having breakfast together, and it was just my husband and me and my brother. And my brother leaned across the table and he took my hand. My brother was very tall, well over 6 feet tall. He was a big man. But at this point in his life, he was stooped over from the pain. He was skin and bones sticking out his shoulders. He just was so emaciated. And he reached across the table and he took my hands and he said, I'm going to die. I'm going to die soon. And I'm going to give you a challenge. You have put yourself in a self-imposed prison, and you're the only person who holds the key. You're the only person that can let yourself out of the prison because you're the one who put yourself there. You have a gift, little sister, and you have to promise me that you will spend the rest of your life pouring into the lives of others while they still have life to choose. Help them choose life, Carrie, while they still have life to live. And I made this promise to him, and I had no idea how I was going to fulfill it. And a week later, he was gone. And you find yourself after a situation like that, going through the motions. You're just getting up every day. You're doing what you have to do because you have to. And that was where I found myself. After the funeral was over, I was back to work, and I just didn't know why anymore. It wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And I missed him so much. And the promise I made to him started to drift away in the grief and the trauma. And a few weeks after he died, after we had buried him, I had this dream. And in this dream, I walked into a restaurant. Sitting with his back to me was this gentleman, and I knew immediately it was my brother. It was the way he sat. It was the sound of his voice, the way people listened to him, the way that they leaned in and laughed when he told one of his very silly jokes. There were many of them. And I knew it was my brother. And so I got all excited, and I was like, Billy, I'm calling his name and trying to get his attention. And he was totally ignoring me. And finally I went and I stood in front of him, Wonder Woman pose, little sister angry at her big brother. And I demanded of him, why won't you talk to me? I miss you. I just want to invite you to our house for dinner. Billy, why won't you even talk to me? And he looks up at me in this dream and he says, I can't talk to you because I died. Don't you remember I died?
Wow.
I'm here to give you a message. Life is short, little sister. Choose wisely. And I woke up. Like someone shot me out of a cannon, straight up. And I quit my job. And I decided I was going to start making a choice every day that would lead me into fulfilling this promise I made to my brother. And the journey has not been linear. The journey has been a lot of ups and downs. The journey has been a lot of missteps, but every misstep put me on another path. And here I am 13 years later.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah, it still brings a catch in my heart,
What a story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. So I just, when I share this with people from the stage or from in one-on-one with clients, the whole foundation of it is life is short, choose wisely. And what does choice really mean then? I mean, Cornell University tells us that we make over 30,000 choices a day, and thousands of them are about food alone. We are constantly firing off choices. We choose what we're going to wear. We choose if we're going to get out of bed when the first time the alarm rings. We choose if we're going to read today. We choose if we're going to veg out in front of social media or Netflix. And I'm not saying any of those choices are wrong or right, but they are choices. And each one of those choices will have a consequence, good or bad. they all come with a consequence. You choose a lifestyle of eating only processed food, there will be consequences. You choose to never sip water, there are consequences. You choose to sleep through 10 alarms because you don't feel like getting up, there are consequences. And those consequences follow you all day. You are called to a greater vision. You are called to purpose, and you can't do it alone. It takes one is too small a number to achieve greatness. We need that team. And the choice that you have is, who are you surrounding yourself with? If you want no regrets in life, choose wisely. It means stepping through fear. It means not letting fear sit in the driver's seat. It means choosing to be productive. It means if I'm choosing today to binge out on Netflix, tomorrow I choose to dive into my passion. Life is about balance, and we can get unbalanced, or it's about harmony, I should say. And we can get unharmonized very quickly by our choices, but we can also make the choices to bring us back into harmony, so that when we get to the end of our life, we're not laying in a bed regretting that we never stepped into our power. It's all about choice.
Yes. What is your viewpoint on purpose? Speaking of choices, what is your viewpoint on purposely limiting your choices? Like, I've heard of people that have a limited wardrobe.
Yes.
Or like limited things that they eat, or limited jewelry. What are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts probably don't align with what I actually have in my house right now, because I'm on a journey myself of really decluttering. And I actually and absolutely love this question that you just asked. Was it Steve Jobs that always wore a black t-shirt and jeans, right? So he didn't have to choose in the morning. I really do think there is a lot of power in that concept. I'm not someone who wants to wear the same thing every day, but I have been getting rid of an awful lot of clothing that is my closet. I just pulled out a whole bunch of stuff last night and left it on a bed because my nieces are coming up to visit. I'm like, go to town, because it really does bog you down. If you have 1,000 books on your shelf, trying to choose the one you're going to read is very difficult. If you have 5 jewelry dressers full, or those big standing things, it is very difficult to make a choice. And I do think that the truth is, we tend to be pulled to navigate to a few things anyway. And if we are constantly faced with a choice of, oh gosh, I have 100 necklaces, which one should I wear today? That will wear you down. We have so much energy in a day, brain power. And if we're constantly making those choices on things that don't matter, they're not things that are pushing the needle forward in our lives, in our businesses, in our relationships, we don't have the brain power, we don't have the bandwidth to make those more important choices. So I do think there is a ton of truth and power in that concept. I'm not sure I could ever live a truly minimalist life, but I do know that I feel empowered every time I get rid of yet another pile of too much of one thing. Jewelry was one of the, it's interesting you brought that up, because that is one of the things that I recently went through the years, as I have lost family members and close friends. I'm always the one that inherited all the jewelry because I love jewelry. And I found myself literally with 3 big of those standing jewelry chests, and then stuff on the walls, that I put boards on the wall and I hung all this jewelry. And I did find myself taking a crazy amount of time in the morning trying to pick out which jewelry matched perfectly. And then I realized I was wearing the same stuff all the time because they were my favorites. And so I started to give away things because I can't wear it all.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoy jewelry, I literally had enough to wear something different every day for probably a year and a half. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. So yes, I do believe that there is a lot of truth in that. If we save our brain power for the more important choices, it's why I will cook. If there's only 2 of us in the house, but if I make fish, I'm making a pan so that I don't have to cook for 3 more nights. Because I don't have to think about it.
Exactly.
I don't have to think about it. What are we having for dinner tonight? Well, what's in the fridge? Go on in there and choose. There's 2 different kinds of fish. We made a bunch, or a huge pot of beans. And we do that on purpose. So I love that question. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely do that with food, the leftovers. People don't necessarily recognize the heaviness on whoever's in charge of the meals.
Yes.
Because it's not just making the meal. It's like you have to do the grocery shop. You have to like figure out what you want, do the grocery shopping for the correct stuff, then figure out what day you're going to be eating it, then make the thing and make sure it's like put on the stove or oven correctly so that it all gets done around approximately the same time. This whole thing that you have to do that people don't necessarily recognize. It's not just making food. It's like a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. It absolutely is. And there's a bag of kidney beans up on my counter right now. My husband this morning picked them up. He goes, "What's this for?" I said, "Well, because I'm going to make chili this weekend. It's the beginning of my thought process. If I put the beans there, I'll remember, but I'm going to make enough for the entire week because we will eat it the entire week. And then I don't have to, I can release my brain from that. I want to make choices on how I can pour into people. Who can I serve today? Those are the things that are truly important to me. And nutrition is also important to me, but it's not something that I want to think about 24/7.
Yeah.
There are other things I want on my table ahead of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was a few things that I've done in my life with that. Makeup is one of them.
Oh, yes.
Totally just minimum. Because again, the same thing that you said with the jewelry, like you only really wear a certain amount, but then you have these other colors and stuff. You're like, you're going to wear someday.
Yeah.
But then when you really think about it, I actually did this thing that Oprah said, which granted, Oprah's been gone for a long time. So this goes to show you how long I've been doing this. She said to turn all of your hangers backwards in your closet for an entire year. Have you heard that?
Yeah, keep going. I love this because I've forgotten.
For an entire year. And then after a year, like put a date somewhere. And then after a year, whatever hangers are still backwards, you didn't wear them for the full season.
Yes.
So more than likely you can get rid of that stuff. So I did a very similar thing with my makeup is I had 2 different areas. I had like my caboodle. Remember the caboodle?
Yes.
The caboodle. Of like makeup. And I started to take the stuff out that I wear often, and I would transfer it from my caboodle into a drawer, like my makeup drawer.
Yes.
And whatever was left in the caboodle after a certain amount of time, like let's say 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was, just recognizing I wasn't wearing, I just got rid of it.
Yes.
And now it's just like, it's a nice little area in my drawer that's like super small. It's not like 6 caboodles with like lipsticks and highlighters and eyeshadow and all this stuff. And it just makes it so much easier.
Yes. It's one of the things, it is literally on my calendar for tomorrow, is to go through all of the makeup. I literally have probably 40 eyeshadow palettes I haven't touched, and they're beautiful. And the thing is, Sabrina, is that somebody is blessed by these things, the things that you can share. I realize some things you have to just toss, but the things you can share, somebody else really wants them. Somebody else really would use those things. I bought palettes with these super bright colors. I don't even know what I was thinking. I'm never wearing them. I've never even touched them.
Wow.
But they looked so pretty. They were so colorful. It's like a squirrel moment. And so it does make life so much easier. And I started doing something just like that. When I got home from my last trip, I put my makeup bag that I took on the trip next to my sink. And I have challenged myself to use just that. And it has been absolutely a mind blower to me that I have not even wanted to go to the big vanity stuffed full of makeup. So it's all gone. I wrote it down. It's just gone. If I didn't need it in the last 2 weeks, I don't need it. That's my philosophy. Yeah.
Do you want to read Mike's comment? He has a great comment here, actually.
Oh,
you want to read it out loud?
Mike. Yes. Many high school theater departments can use your old makeup. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
All right. It's going. I'm going to pack it all up in a nice, pretty basket. And Mike's a pretty cool, really cool guy.
There you go. Thank you so much for that, Mike. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
even thought of that at all.
Mhm.
Well, that is great. And you know what I really appreciate about you mentioning is yes, choices and how much brain power you are releasing when you do things like releasing jewelry, releasing makeup so that you're not having to make so many choices. And then you can pivot your thinking towards things that are more impactful for your world, your community, things that you want to be doing,
Yeah.
which is it. That's what we want to be
Yes.
doing.
Yes. And it is, you ever walk into a home that has so much stuff that you can't think,
Yeah.
or your desk is so messy that you literally can't work because you just can't think?
Yeah.
That really is because your brain is firing off so many choices. Do I work on this? Do I work on this? Do I pick up this? Why is this here? Your brain is asking so many questions and trying to make so many choices that it's like we left something on all night. We left our car door open all night. And when we go out in the morning, we can't start it because it's completely drained. That's what's happening to our brain
That was
when
good.
when we surround it with all this stuff. It's just, it's inside doing all these questions and getting so that it just is like, done. So we're not going to work on anything. Mhm.
Exactly. I do that with my fiance sometimes at night, right around like 7, 8 o'clock. I can keep working until like midnight, 2 in the morning sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But there's a point in the night where I'm just like, I am not taking any more questions.
Yeah.
Like I'm not answering any more questions for the
Yes.
rest of the night. Because I'm just done. I'm done like doing either or and
Yeah.
choosing.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that. Very cool. I want to ask you about, when I was reading your intro, it said radical empowerment method. Tell us
Yeah.
what that is.
The radical empowerment method is my journey from the dream I had about my brother and the promise I made to him, and the culmination of where I was at that point in my life when I wrote the book, which I finished about a month and a half after my mother died in 2021 from the same cancer that took my brother. And I was diagnosed with the same cancer in December of 2020. And being diagnosed with the same cancer that had taken him really brought the whole promise and the whole subject of life is short, choose wisely, right in my face again. And then a few months later, holding my mom as she died from the same cancer, it just kept coming in my face again. And I thought, you know what? I've talked about writing this book for years. It is time. And I sat down. I mean, it's past time. I just kept putting it off, thinking, who am I to write a book? That kind of thing. And I sat down with a laptop and I just started writing. And the words started flowing of all the things I had experienced, learned, made mistakes on over that entire time period. And when it was all done, I meshed it, looked at the subjects, put them together, and realized they really created this amazing method to go from a life of, I don't know why I get up every morning, to a life of empowered action and getting up and saying, this is why I'm here, and this is what I'm doing, and this is why life is so amazing. And it covers clearing space. Interestingly enough, that you brought that up, the first whole chapter is on clearing space, because if we want in our lives greatness, we have to remove the not greatness. We have to remove what no longer serves us, or maybe never did. It's just like that closet. If we use that closet analogy again, if you see something in the store and you're like, oh my gosh, that is the shirt I've been looking for my entire life, and you buy it and you come home and you stand in your closet and you're like, I have nowhere to hang this. I have no empty hangers. I have no space. You're in the closet with your elbow going, I'm going to get this all the way. I'm going to squeeze this right in. We have to do that with our mental space as well as our physical space if we want to live a radically empowered life. It's where we start. We get rid of the negative self-talk. We get rid of the scar. Well, we don't get rid of the scars, but we learn how to turn those scars into power and blessing for ourselves and for others. We clear that emotional space to allow room for the greatness. We clear our physical space so that we can move forward with freedom. And then we move on to choosing joy, choosing laughter, walking in forgiveness and power, choosing confidence, how to move through life, doing things outside of our comfort zone and embracing the fear. We're never going to be without fear. It's part of life. And fear is not a bad thing. Fear keeps us from driving off a cliff or touching a hot stove or stepping off a cliff. Fear is what says, hey, listen up, listen up. But very often fear will say, listen up, don't step out of your comfort zone. It's scary over there. And it's okay to say to fear, I hear you, but now you need to get in the back seat. Because that thing outside of my comfort zone is the very thing that's going to grow me, and I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it. And that's what the Radical Empowerment Method is all about. It's a book. I turned it into an online program. I work with it one-on-one with clients. I work with it in corporations. It is a journey, and some of the parts of the journey, especially the forgiveness part, can be a real challenge for a lot of people. But on the other side of forgiveness is your own freedom, and that's what we work on together.
Wow. That is awesome.
Thank you.
We have a ton of people watching live right now, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton watching on the replay. They're obviously resonating with what you're saying. I want to ask, quickly, for those that are feeling unheard or invisible, and they're resonating with what you're saying, they're like, CarrieVee, yes, and they're feeling it internally. What is the step? Like, how does somebody go from invisible and unheard to stepping into what you're calling success or action?
Yeah. I love this question. A lot of women, especially women, and I'm not a man hater. I'm not someone who thinks that women's empowerment means we don't like men. We all need each other. And for many women, in the society we live in, we will feel unseen, unheard, unloved, especially as we get older, because we are sometimes pushed to the background. We're pushed to the back of stores. We're pushed back to the women's section where we're supposed to dress appropriately in shapeless elastic pants and embroidered t-shirts. I mean, this is what is expected of us, or muumuus, or just everything shapeless, because we're not supposed to embrace this new body we have that comes as we age. And I'm not saying that we just automatically are unhealthy. That's a whole nother conversation. But what I'm saying is we do change. We all change, men, women, and children. We all change. We go through puberty, that is a pause and a reset. Menopause is a pause and a reset. And with that pause and reset on both sides, puberty and menopause, we can feel ourselves wanting to contract back, because we want to take up less and less space, because if someone sees us, then we have to also see ourselves. And so to me, the number one way of stepping out of that I don't feel seen and I don't feel heard is to see and feel and hear and love ourselves. Mm-hmm. And when we can embrace who we are at every moment, that joy and that happiness and that power propels us forward. But it starts with accepting us. And I hear a lot of people say, just get out there and do it. And yes, a way to build confidence is doing what scares you. My grandmother used to tell me all the time, get out there and do one thing a day that scares the stuffing out of you. One thing. It can be anything. And I understand that concept, and I agree with that concept. But that won't happen if we don't learn to love who we are. We don't have to subscribe that we are invisible. We don't have to subscribe to the fact or to a thought that we're not heard. If we want to be heard, we get to embrace what we want to say and get out there and say it. And we won't do that if we haven't poured into ourselves first and really gone through the work of getting rid of what's not serving us, letting go of toxic relationships, learning to forgive abusers in the past, learning to walk through grief and understand that it's okay to cry and it's okay to grieve, and that it is a process that we get to embrace. All of those things work together to start loving ourselves And then we start hearing ourselves, and then we feel confident to step out and share our stories so that others can learn from us.
Beautiful.
Did that answer your question? I feel like
Yeah. And I love how you said get to embrace.
Yeah, we get to.
Beautiful.
We get to embrace it. That term, those words, the way we talk to ourselves when we say, I have to do this, it's an immediate stress. It's an immediate stress response, and it's an immediate, I have to do this. But when we say I get to, it's a shoulder opening, stand up tall. I get to do this. I get to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not a stranger to loss in my life. And each time I go through grief, what I will say is I get to go through this. I get to embrace this journey. And someday I will get to help someone else when they step into this journey, because we all do. Nobody gets through life without a scar of some kind, or the grief of losing someone, either through death or divorce or the crumble of a friendship, losing a job, losing a house. Those are all grief situations. We all go through it. So if we say, I get to go through this, I get to keep great notes, because someday someone's going to cross my path who is going to say, I'm really having a bad day. I lost my mom last month and I don't know how to move forward.
Yeah.
And then I can say, do you want to talk?
Yeah.
I've walked a journey similar, and maybe there's something that I could help you with. But if I don't embrace my grief journey, if I try to shove it down and never embrace and never acknowledge the hurt, then I don't get to help anybody else with that either, because I've still shoved it in a ball in my gut.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Mike has a pretty awesome comment here. If you want to read this out loud for the audio.
Yeah. It helps us, guys, if y'all ladies tell us something like, I'm not sure you're hearing me, or did you understand how I heard what you just said? It's very helpful and loving to let us know when you feel invisible, because most of us aren't doing it on purpose. Wow. Mike, that sent chills down my spine. Wow. Yeah, speak up. Let people know how you're feeling. It's empowering to the men and to the women, to friendships, to all relationships. We assume we know what someone said, or we assume we know that somebody meant what we said. And that's how this whole communication breaks down. So, Mike, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. For those watching live, thank you so much for being here. For those watching on the replay, make sure that you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love. I want to ask Carrie, we have people listening here live, hanging out. They're resonating with you. Can you tell us what exactly you do and who should be reaching out to you?
I do a lot of corporate team building. I work with nonprofits and corporations to help build their teams by focusing on communication and speaking up and saying how you really feel. I also work with men and women one-on-one, walking through a coaching program to help you step into your empowered life. I do keynote speaking, I do workshops, and who should be reaching out to me? You, if you are someone who is serious about growth, learning to tell your story. I love to help people craft their signature keynote and story. And who should reach out to me? You, if you're listening, you, even if it's for a 15-minute coffee chat. My joy and my love is getting to know people who truly want to step into that next level and grow. I used to work with only women, and then I had men asking me, well, would you coach me? Would you coach me? And it was one of those things where I was like, well, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone because the opportunity's there. And it was very powerful because like Mike is talking throughout this or responding, we put men in a stereotype too. The same way that women are put in a stereotype, we will often put men in a stereotype, and they deserve to learn to cry and laugh and express joy and express forgiveness and express themselves. And many of them don't know how.
Yeah, I agree. Why do you do what you do?
Because of my brother. I do what I do because of the challenge my brother gave me. I would probably still be sitting behind a desk in corporate America doing what I do doing what I did. And I love people who work corporate and love corporate. If you love working in your corporate job, that is where you are supposed to be. I didn't. I knew there was more. And the challenge for my brother is it's why I keep doing what I do.
I love that. I got the lawn guy. The lawn guy's right in the window right now. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I so appreciate you being here, sharing all of this goodness with you. Where can people find you on social media? Where do you hang out?
I hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn, I'm Carrie Verrocchio. Instagram at I am CarrieVee, CarrieVee.com. On your screen is my website. And YouTube, I am Carrie Verrocchio, and I share a lot of short snippet videos there for Empowered Action Life.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
For those of you watching, hanging out, and resonating with Carrie, make sure you reach out to her. Her website is right below her face area, CarrieVee.com. It's also in a clickable link wherever you're watching us at in the description below. Any closing thoughts, Carrie? This has been great.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. Closing thought is, what can you do today that will make a difference in your life tomorrow? What can you do today that will make a positive difference in your life tomorrow? What choice will you make today to make tomorrow better?
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Carrie, for being here. For those watching live, thank you. This is Her Talk Show. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and love content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always, do something awesome